Hi, everybody. Today we have a second episode of Platіжка, and today I have the founder of the NEAR, Ілля Полосухін. Hi, Ілля. Welcome to meet you to Платіжка podcast. This is our second very regular episode, and it's an honor to meet you here and to have you here.
Great to be here.
Let's start with the roots. You're from Harkov. It happens to be that Harkov brought us many blockchain visionaries, and people in blockchain know what the Harkov is. Our company is originally from Harkov. You're from Harkov. Please tell me more about your young life there, how it was, what was your experience?
Yeah, I mean, Harkov, I guess, is a very technically minded city, clearly. Not just in blockchain, also a bunch of AI companies are now founded by Harkov.
Crypto exchanges.
I mean, my family is pretty technical. My grandfather actually was designing rocket control systems on one of the factories with no names.
Nice, nice.
Yeah, so from pretty young age, kind of been exposed to computers, and the high school and middle school I went to had a lot of group of kids who were trying to build different software, competing in programming competitions, and so there's kind of a whole culture of this International Olympic in informatics and ICPC. And at the same time, I was always interested in artificial intelligence. It was, to me, seemed like the next evolution for computing, and kind of that makes sense as an interface for computing. So I was, even back in high school, was trying to build some neural networks with very limited knowledge of math at the time. And so I went to Harkov Polytechnic to study applied math, to effectively learn more about kind of math needed for artificial intelligence. And through that, got to work on data science, machine learning, algorithms, and that got me into Google Research, working on effectively what is now the state-of-the-art neural network systems.
What was your first touch to the AI? How did you know that term at all?
It was, I think, the movie in 2000 called Artificial Intelligence.
The Spielberg movie?
Yeah.
Our beautiful copywriters found that in some other of their podcasts, probably. Tell me more about that, because I watched a lot of sci-fi movies in the childhood as well. And a lot of what I develop right now and ideas that come to my head, I then suddenly realized that it was described in some movie. Tell me more about that moment. So you watched the movie and hey, this is what I want to do in my life.
Well, I mean, to be clear, I was 10 at the time, so probably...
Doesn't matter.
Probably wasn't immediately I want to do that, but it definitely left a big impression. And then I read Asimov, I read Heinlein. And so, I think the concept of, having AI system that is either a partner or kind of a common, robotics, all of that were around. And so kind of specific moment was when I was preparing for programming competitions. So when you train for it, you do a lot of effectively throwaway coding, right? You have a problem, you write some code, and then effectively this is not going to be used anywhere, right? You kind of throw it away, right? And you do that on repeat, effectively practice you do, gym benching, but with coding. And, being kind of maybe conceptually lazy, I'm why can't machine do all this for me, right? Why can't computer write these programs? And I just describe what I want to get done.
But wasn't any concept of the machine learning back there? How did you describe that? How you come up to that?
I mean, obviously, well, to be clear, machine learning have been existed in some form since 60s, right? And so first neural networks were in 63. At the time, there was, basic kind of statistical machine learning, but there was nothing that would be, kind of the current form, natural language generation and stuff like this. But for me, it was hey, why not, right? That was the, why can't it write the code directly? And so the idea of program synthesis and kind of machines writing code, and now we call it vibe coding. That was when I was 14, 15, I was that totally makes sense.
We'll talk about that, because I'm pretty sure that you created that term
No, not me, no.
For the market, but he was promoting that though. If we come back to the university, you were on the university chart, like the most famous student there, one of them, who founded as well. How do your classmates and the people from your university, like basically your mates, did they make out into the artificial intelligence, like in IT at all? Can you name someone famous?
Dimo Drugakov is probably the other one. He was also programming competitions, and now he runs a company called Fireworks, which is doing AI inference at scale, like one of the fastest inference providers. There's a few people who are actually working within NEAR ecosystem from my university, who kind of I brought in, like Vlad Frolov and a few others as well. And then there's some people who just went kind of Google and kind of similar trajectory as well, and I'm sure we'll do more things. So yeah, I mean, I think generally people went to do kind of great things, the people who wanted and who had the drive to do something. So I don't think usually like, oh, it's hard to get out from, clearly Kharkiv Polytechnic is not a world-known school yet.
I think it is.
And now it is, maybe.
I think it is, not so much.
It's not like Stanford or MIT, right? So, but I think the pieces of education were there, and for people who wanted, they could take it and bring it to the world level.
Do you think it's education or circumstances that put you up there?
I think it was a combination. We had a very strong like math program, and then for programming, I would say nobody knows how to teach programming anyway, and it's changing like every 5 years. Like the way you should be teaching programming changes anyway. So I think we had enough flexibility to explore. Like we had, for example, a team project, right? We built like a whole like startup effectively ourselves as a team, as like a small sub-team in a class. Like I think like that kind of programs are great for really people just exploring how to work together in a more real life versus, in school building like a project that, again, you do throwaway code that nobody will use it ever. You do it yourself, which is not normally how you do at work.
What you can say to the younger generations, like yourself, back there, like 15-year-old, 14-year-old, that are thinking about going to university in Kharkiv whatsoever, what should they do?
Good question. I mean, right now, the world is changing even more, right, with AI.
Very fast.
Yeah. Like, it's still critical to know the basics, because otherwise you don't even know if what AI is doing, like, makes any sense, or you can't ask the right questions if you don't yourself have some mental model. Figuring out how to build the mental model of, like, how computers work, how AI works itself, what are the limitations, is really important. I don't know if there is also kind of the schools themselves are able to provide that either. At least like a set of students working together, and if like challenged in the right way, that might be a good way to learn and kind of share that knowledge. With AI now, it's on you. It's like whatever, if you ask the questions, you will learn, right? If you just kind of passively, scroll through TikTok, you will not learn. So like, now it's really...
You need to understand how it works. You need to know the basics of the math.
Yes, but
physics.
Again, you can actually ask all that questions to AI too, and it will tell you. So like right now,
you do, but you can ask a bunch of other questions.
Well, that's what I mean. It's always self-driven, right? If you're driven yourself, you will go and figure out and learn, and like obviously, great teachers will unlock that and give you more opportunity, but it's like your desire that will drive it. With AI now, you have the ultimate teacher, right? You have a teacher that knows everything in the world, right? And so it's really all about the questions you're going to ask. And magic, right? If your spells are the right spells, you can change the world. If your spells are wrong, right? If you're in a dark magic, you're gonna like self-destruct.
Yeah. Talking about the teachers, can you tell us what's the most influential person was back in your days? Do you remember some particular professor or the guy who helps you to can say hi to them?
So the informatics teacher in my middle high school was very influential. So Nikolai Arzubov. And he unlocked a lot for us just like to experiment and try things. I mean, he was running this qubit program and still running in Kharkiv, which is like for kids to also go and learn more outside of just kind of computer class, but giving, and then that also translated like summer camps as well, where, so I think that, and kind of that created a lot of generations of programmers out of our high school.
Okay, so you're saying that the whole generation of the blockchain developers and founders was created with a couple of guys, good guys that learned their job from Kharkiv?
Probably, yes.
You then joined the Self-Food System company.
Yes.
It was your first job. Tell me more, what was you doing there?
So they had an office in Kharkiv, and that's why I joined. I was kind of looking for something part-time. It was a machine learning company. It was actually founded in, I think, like late 60s. Before machine learning word existed, they were doing econometrics. So the founder was a professor of econometrics from University of San Diego. It was like a smallish company, like 40 people, 50 people, but they kind of had like this deep machine learning expertise, and they were selling to like Chase and AIG and Travelers. Like a lot of financial institutions were using them for the machine learning tech stack. Again, this is so in 90s and 2000s, right? So when I joined, I was doing a lot of like data science projects, right? Obviously working on some of the core tooling, but the fun part was also like we had like, I don't know, some big medical conglomerate, not to name them, that came back with the data from running a drug trial. And they didn't tell us what the drug is, but they have like, hey, here's the two groups of data, and can you find if there is a statistical improvement, right? And we did all the analysis and everything and come back, and that was not a very pleasant meeting, saying, no, there's no statistical improvement. So whatever this drug is, it doesn't work. But it was a fun project. We had a company was doing cancer detection based on DNA sequencing. And so they had very little data, but a lot of kind of like a full DNA sequence. They only had, I don't know, maybe 50 patients that have cancer and, 1,000 patients that didn't have cancer. And so how do you build a detector that can run just based on DNA sequence, right? And like very high risk, very high value of making an error. Did you execute that? We built them a classifier, and we made because doctor was the consumer of this outcome, was like how likely the model is wrong as well, right? It's like, hey, if model is super confident, it would be like, okay, or it's like not confident, and doctor should go and do more like other analysis, right? So it kind of gave narrowed down for the doctors to then do more invasive procedures.
How does it look like? I mean, what was the user interface? You just did data analysis for them? Yeah, so we did. And go with the report?
In that case, I built like a visualizer where it actually showed all the other cases that they had and would pinpoint this new case where it is compared to all the other cases. This was literally for doctors. It wasn't...
Nice.
It's like, hey, this is the people who had cancer. This is people who didn't have cancer. This is people who you've done already deeper analysis. And so this case that you just provided is effectively showing where it is relative to others. So the doctor can decide if they oh yeah, this is cancer and we should remove it ASAP. This is actually safe and we should not get person under deeper, it's deeper biopsy, right? So it's a very painful. So if it's definitely not it, they can kind of skip. And if it is in this unclear area, then they need to go and do the deeper procedure. But effectively it kind of reduced the work and reduced the amount of kind of painful procedures for people.
So you know how to do front end as well, though? Yeah?
Well, now with AI.
Yeah? What year did you move to Silicon Valley?
So Silicon Valley itself, I moved in 2014. So I moved to US in 2012, first to San Diego, to this company. And then when I saw the neural network starting to work, so there was this paper called Cat Neuron that came out of Google. This was the first example of neural network trained without any human supervision, right? They just showed it a bunch of images and asked it to reproduce it. And it learned a concept of a cat, right? Without anyone telling that cats exist. So that was the first example of effectively what we now using, right? That was the kind of the first basic example. And so
who was the author of that?
So it was Andrew Yang and Jeff Dean and kind of few other folks. And that was the first one also trained on larger cluster. It wasn't on a single machine anymore. So Jeff Dean kind of built that distributed training. And so I was like, okay, this is it. It's happening.
Nice.
I need to be there. And so I kind of went to interview, got in, and so joined the team and kind of moved from San Diego to San Francisco to work to Google to work on affecting that, but for natural language, right? It's like, okay, well, it starts to work for images. It didn't work at all for natural language yet. Natural language is where the knowledge is. Like, we talk in natural language. We understand that somebody else is intelligent because of language. We can ask questions to see if they understood something. And so like question answering, to me, that was the kind of the best way to measure if something is like intelligent. So I joined the team working on question answering at Google Research.
Tell us, subscribers, how to get into Google. How was that experience? What was the interview?
I mean, in my case, so a friend of mine, I think, was an intern there before, so he like referred me. So there's like a referral process.
Oh, okay. So you get drunk with someone somewhere?
Yes. Know someone who was already at Google.
Okay. It works all around the world, guys.
But the interview process, again, and this may have changed, right? This is more than 10 years at this point. But Google was effectively asking the same problems that you solve when you're practicing for programming competitions. Uh-huh. So it's like algorithms, kind of systems design. Like I literally practiced for those during my college years as part of the programming competition practice. So those were pretty straightforward. So the usual recommendation of lit code, code forces, practice those. You don't even need to solve like hard problems like A/B problems. If you can solve those consistently, that usually is kind of gives you. And then systems design is good, just like understanding how systems are designed. And this is helpful right now. Even the code forces style stuff, A/B, AI just solves no problem right now. So like that actually becomes less of a skill that you need to have. The systems design is actually where you really need to spend more time now because AI just doesn't have the context to understand the whole system. And so you need to be the master of the
architecture. It's getting there right now a bit.
It's getting there, but like, I mean, I have agents right now building stuff as we sit here. And you do need to structure things in a very specific way so agents don't go and like do bad things because they're just missing a lot of like understanding of the more conceptual systems, again, for now.
How do you think the AI in robotics will change the world? Which is hot topic right now.
Yeah. Let's decompose this because there's a lot of, it's already changing, right? And it's just gonna keep accelerating. Robotics is interesting because historically the limitation in robotics was in AI, in the intelligence, right? That part is getting there right now. Uh-huh. And so now there is a question of just costs and components, right? Like the reason why, for example, Chinese company Unitree is way more successful in robotics right now is because they have a very cheap components and they use AI to fix up for all the kind of challenges. Point is right now it's like, if we can get robotics cheap enough, right? If you can get, a humanoid robot or like a specialized robot for a specific function under like, $5K, that's a very different world because you will have a robot in a kitchen that instead of, having like 5 different appliances, you'll just have like a robot hand that effectively can cook stuff, do everything.
I think we'll go there very soon. For example, what problems does like Claude and other popular models solve for the average Joe? Go there, know the information, ask the question, know the answer. For the average businesses, they resolve many questions there as well. And now you don't need to hire like a bunch of staff people to do your presentations, to do your research, to do your business analysis. So basically what was costing you like a couple of grand, for example, some board presentation or the meeting presentation or some research from your business analysis, from your research, that was costing you a couple of grand for the company, now costs you almost zero. If we or the robots in the future will figure out how to deduct the cost of the physical assets and of the developments, they will change it forever. Because right now, when you buy in the car, there is a cost of the materials there, the cost of labor, margin, taxes, If we put out the labor cost, the margin going to be higher, you can drop the prices. If
Well,
we teach
I will extrapolate. This actually breaks the fundamental capitalism.
Yeah, it is. That's where I'm going, you see? So imagine you can have a humanoid robot for like $5,000, whatever $5,000 gonna be in
exactly.
in
what does that even mean?
In a few years. But you can get a car for $2,000, for example, or build a house for under $1 million. How you think that will disrupt the global market? The way it's developing right now, I think 10, 15 years, we're gonna be there. So the resources can be mined by the robots as well, which goes down the cost. The wars for that resources can be done with the robots as well.
Yeah.
And what we'll see is basically cheapening of everything that we know and that was previously existed.
I think one interesting way to think about it is right now, countries are comparing themselves on GDP, right? Because it's a metric kind of like economic success and wealth of people in the country. But the thing is, if this transition, as this transition happening, not if, when this transition is happening, that means now there's less and less need for labor, which now the GDP is not actually gets distributed to labor in the first place, right? It's effectively full, just capital operation, capital in, capital out, right? That kind of disrupts the fundamental concept of GDP, right? As you said, like, oh, there's a margin, but like, why is there a margin if somebody else can reproduce it with the same robot, right? You have margin compression. And so you kind of just have like, whatever the amount of energy that was spent to do the whole process. And so energy will, at the end, become the true bottleneck. Energy and real estate are really two bottlenecks.
I don't think the energy is going to be an issue, man. I think it's just resources, because we know how to make a very cheap energy from the atom, right? Energy is not a question right now. The delivering of that energy to particular places is the natural resources that we need for the machines, like chromium, like gold, silver, all the other metals. I think that's
which is real estate, really. If you own the land with the natural resources, then you can mine it.
You cannot own the land but mine something there.
But yeah, no, I think generally the world is gonna change very dramatically, right? And we see this. We are in an interesting transition phase right now where software development is a good example where like we also see the opposite of what people expected. Like now everybody can be a software engineer, but there's actually more demand for software engineers because there's just so much more you can develop, right? And so the question is, are we gonna also have the expansion of demand coming from this? Because now everybody can have a robot do everything. Like, are we gonna do more and more things as well? So I think there's like two different powers that are moving this. And I think we don't have an economic theory for like post-AGI world. And we actually like in that world almost already. And so I think like all of the traditional economics literally doesn't apply.
I believe that the adoption of those technologies is the only thing that will give us some time to survive.
To figure it out.
Yeah. Because despite all of the AI, I still need to call to a literal human to change my booking on the plane.
Well, maybe we have an agent marketplace that will have an agent to do it for you. And you can just tell your agents to hire an agent to do that. So.
Yeah, to have a call.
Yeah, have my agent talking to your agent, to do this.
I don't think any agent will reckon the Indian English accent. It needs to be very strong ML.
I'll be honest. So I have a meeting notes system. Yeah. And so sometimes I actually read the meeting notes because the voice to text was better. Was better than how I heard it. Because it was trained on all the accent. Like at this point, like Google had this program where they were literally like recording everybody's accents, and they were asking people like, oh, if you have Australian accent, please come and record your voice. And so they actually trained a lot more than I've trained, right, in my head of understanding different accents.
Let's go back in time a bit. The pop question, you create attention is all you need with your colleagues from Google. The first question, did you knew back there what influence will it be?
I mean, not directly, no. It was definitely a meaningful progress, but people were coming up with different architectures all the time, right, at the time. You can name like 5, 6 different architectures at a time that were kind of very interesting. It was definitely different and kind of showed an immense promise. I mean, because I left, but the folks kept experimenting with like different modalities, like images, etc. already at the time. That was clearly like, oh, this is actually like generalizes to a lot more than just text, just kind of translation, question answering. The insight that the other Ілля Полосухін had, which is like, okay, let's just give it more compute. Like as a researcher, you always want it to be something new, right? Not just like, okay, let's just pump it on a massive cluster. But that was kind of the other part that really made this massive success.
Do you remember the situation, the scene when it was created?
So the idea was from Jakob. He kind of described it. And so I went and made a quick prototype with TensorFlow. And it wasn't random. Part of the reason why it was I actually was already planning to leave. And so I was starting to reduce some of the other projects I was working on. And so I had more free time to just go and experiment. And so we kind of with Ashish was working on first version of this. And it was very interesting because it was removing a lot of bottlenecks and issues we had with previous generation of models we were using. This shouldn't work. That was the original idea.
What was that?
And so, but made a quick prototype, it did something. So it's okay, well, we should really explore. And obviously it took a lot of work to make it really work stably, state of the art. And
what was the prototype?
Right now it's called diffusion actually. And that's why it was called transformers. It was the idea to transform an input, let's say sentence, into output sentence, right? So let's say either you want to translate from English to French, or you want to read the article and translate an answer to some question. You take this, right? And instead of reading word by word, the way humans do, you say, well, we're just going to process it all in parallel. Every word will be in parallel. And then we will use this attention mechanism to effectively make sense of it. And we'll do it multiple times, and then we'll try to produce the output sequence. Effectively, with no sequential processing, right? With no one word at a time. And the concept of the idea is we have massively parallel computing, right? The GPUs have, thousands of cores. And so you can process every time in every word in parallel, and it will take you, a microsecond. Versus, if you're trying to read one word at a time, right? You have 2,000 words. You need at least 2,000 iterations, right? Versus here you have, one iteration. Maybe you do it a few times, and then you produce output, right? So you have 1,000x reduction in the processing.
What was your idea of the first product or implementation, how it's going to work?
My team was specifically working on question answering. We were already using these types of thing for question answering. So when you ask questions on google.com, and there was there wasn't the current AI output, but there was a answer. So that was scored by a neural network already.
Okay.
And that neural network, originally we built actually a generative model. It just was very slow, right? It would hey, here's 10 articles from search results. It was okay, well, it will take me 10 minutes to read them. And on Google, you cannot do that, right? Nobody gonna wait for 10 minutes for AI to read and respond. And so we're actually already doing oh, let's just take all the words, averaging them out, and hopefully it'll understand the meaning of this, right? So it was already a very context-free model, let's just say, because we were constrained by performance. And so this kind of the transformer model, it was bringing the context and while maintaining performance to something like this, to question answering. Now, the first most obvious example was translation. So the paper actually talks about translation. And the first real production use where there was a massive jump in quality was Google Translate. So in 2018, there was an article that was in New York Times talking how Google Translate got massively better. That was because the transformers were implemented at the time. And
based on what you guys created?
Yeah, based on this architecture.
Nice.
And so this was the first massive scale implementation that was really public. I left at that point, but I'm sure Google used it in other places that are less public. But that was one where before, if you use Google Translate pre-2018 for Russian, for example, it was really bad. And 2018 was it just got massively better. So that was the moment where it actually went into production. Even at the reasonable scale, before all the GPT-2 stuff.
Where is the rest of your team right now? The colleagues that created that?
Either started a company or...
Anybody the audience can possibly know?
Noam just joined OpenAI. He started Character AI, which was kind of acquired into Google, and then he recently went to OpenAI. Cleon is doing Sakana out of Japan. They're doing some really awesome kind of AI research. Jakob is actually doing a mRNA startup. So they're basically using transformers for vaccines. They test them out in real production, and then feed back that information into the model, right? And so they can actually generate sequences that, for vaccines, like what COVID vaccine was, but, faster through AI. Other folks kind of been doing startups as well. I mean, Cohere is Aiden, been doing LLM, effectively foundational models out of Canada. Ashish been doing Essential, which is also a foundational model.
Nice, everybody got into the AI after that. How do you think the Google atmosphere has influenced you as a businessman, as a creator, as a programmer?
It's an interesting question. I mean, Google is a very interesting company because they've tried to kind of keep some of those like flat, everything's accessible, everything's open, like internally, right? Everything is kind of like you can go and like watch somebody else's teams, maybe video, I don't know about meetings, but like town halls, and sometimes you can see like their like strategy presentations. You can see their code. You can see kind of a lot of the progress that's been made. Again, this is all 10 years ago, so things may have changed dramatically. At the same time, it's a massive company now, right? And so bureaucracy is kind of, at least when I was there already, was kind of starting to take over.
The narrative I'm going to is that it wasn't Kharkiv, right? A harsh place in the beginning of the century. Then it was in the Google, very good place to develop. My point is that you need to do whatever you can to put yourself in the best place that is currently available for you. Whether it's Google, or the company, the city, the friends, the company that you want to work with, the university, the school, whatever it is. If you know that something is going to be right for you and you can develop yourself in there, you should go there without hesitating and without the thinking, oh, I'm not so good to that. This is my point. You see, you were born and raised in Kharkiv, and your teachers brought you the math love and the culture with the summer camps and stuff. Then the Google and the people there train you how to interact with the AI and how to build essentially big ideas and the big projects. It's just some message to the viewers.
Yeah, for sure. I think you want to be surrounded by people who, either smarter or more experienced,
Always.
And you want to leverage that to up-level yourself. So yeah, definitely agree that don't need to feel like, oh, I'm, whatever, not good enough, because the goal is to get better, right? So you want to be with people who will bring that up, right?
You found it NEAR, then essentially you just switch from the AI to blockchain. I know it's a question that I asked you before, but how you reckon that? How you created NEAR? What was the main idea in the first place?
So originally it was an AI company. It was NEAR AI. We started by doing exactly that, teaching machines to code. So what vibe coding is now. The idea was like, okay, well, transformers, starting to work. Like in general, neural networks were starting to work. And I was like, okay, let's bring back this, when I was 14 idea that we shouldn't write code directly. Now it's obvious, but like 2017, you're like, hey, if everybody is able to build software directly, then, things like SaaS are not needed because everybody can just like build their own stuff on the fly. Everybody will be able to do so much more things because software is effectively the leverage and for everybody. But also like this will be the new interface, right? Because like the reason why we're right now build software is because we want to tell machines what we want to get done. So if we can just tell directly what we want to get done in English or Russian or whatever, then we don't really need, the way we interact with computing will completely change. That was the big vision. And so we started by trying to solve competitive programming and also at the same time trying to build a product. We had like a very basic prototype of effectively Lovable, where you could like draw on a piece of paper the interface, the user interface of an app, and describe how it should work.
It's an amazing product. It's an amazing product.
Yeah, but in 2018 it didn't work exactly. At the time we were looking at it and we were like, okay, we probably need to hire like a whole outsourcing team in Ukraine that will fix after AI.
Sure. The solution to all of your problems, hire an outsourced team in the Ukraine. They will do all the shit for you.
The journey to blockchain was very much natural through, we actually had a lot of students in Ukraine, in Russia, in China, in like Southeast Asia, who were doing small tasks for us where like, somebody was given like, hey, this is a description of a function you need to build, write a function, or here's a function, write the description. So we generate training data for our AI, right? So think of it like scale AI. And we had trouble paying people. right? Like PayPal didn't work. Pioneer didn't work with, Russia at the time. PayPal didn't work with Ukraine. Wise didn't work with either. Nothing worked with China. And like
Still doesn't work.
Still doesn't work. And so crypto was like, oh, can we just send them crypto? And this is 2018. You like look at Bitcoin and Ethereum gas fees at the time were like, a few dollars. We were paying people like 15 cents for a task or something. We're like, well, that kind of doesn't make any sense. Why is the fee so expensive? This is internet money. The fees should be cheap. And so we're kind of like, well, if there was a blockchain that's scalable, easy to use, normal prices for microtransactions, we would use it.
Monero was cheap. The Zcash.
I'm trying to remember. Well, Zcash wasn't fully working yet at the time, right? Like it only started to work a couple of years ago properly. And still, even now, Zcash fees are actually reasonably sizable. It's like still like 25 cents per transaction. So with Zcash, you're paying for something else, like you're paying for privacy. Monero is like a whole separate story. There was a lot of blockchains, right? There was IOTA, right? Which was like, central coordinator that effectively, like when it goes offline, the whole chain stops.
It makes sense. You founded economics inside your own business and then build a token. Basically, that
we had that need for a solution. Or like, okay, well, we're gonna build this solution, and then token is the best way to fund it. That was effectively the reasoning.
What's the future of the NEAR?
The future is we kind of been building, I call it vertical stack for this AI future. In the future, right, we were just describing where it's all AI, right? Yeah. It's AI for work, it's AI for robots, it's AI for resources. Everybody gets their own AI, but you still need a way for AIs to interact. Like the AI that's mining, some metals that then needs to send it to AI that's processing in a factory, that needs to send it to AI that's gonna actually, put it into TV that's gonna actually arrive in your home. Like all of that is effectively a market coordination problem. And so blockchain is the backend for that. So AI is the front end, blockchain is the backend. Everywhere there's agents. This can be a robotic agent, somebody's personal agent, a factory's agent, and they all need a way to effectively transact and interact with each other. And so NEAR is a full stack platform, right? We have everything from the settlement to universal liquidity with intents to AI stack for verifiable, confidential, decentralized AI inference and agent hosting and agent marketplace to actually really connect all those agents. And so all of these pieces really work together and they kind of link to the same security, to the same kind of verifiability, settlement, identity, and payments layer. And NEAR token is kind of at the core, really like making this whole system work.
How do you attract businesses right now to the ecosystem? What is your acquisition model? Yeah.
So right now we have this 3 product surfaces, right? One is NEAR Intents. So there we attract businesses that effectively want to plug into universal liquidity layer, right? We just launched Euro. So like you can actually send IBAN and it will arrive to you in your account and the same in the other way. So
to the Web 2 world.
Web 2 world, exactly. So you can send from Cash App, like other Web 2 integrations are coming as well. And at the same time, Web 3, more Web 3 integrations, more wallets, more partners, more applications that are getting integrated. And so that is network effect of the more partners we have, the kind of better it is. More liquidity, more volume is processing through this. That is a building block for the agent marketplace, right? Because now agents can go and pay the invoice in euro in Europe, right? And if you want to change your flight and you need to pay like 50 extra euro, the agent that's doing this can actually go and do that directly. Right, so that's kind of the next layer. And so for agent marketplace right now the idea is to bootstrap it, create more agents, bring more agent developers, and plug it into more kind of consumer agents as well. And on the AI side, we're partnering with effectively anyone who needs private agents, or kind of next layer of this is actually the, your company agent system, right? If everybody in your company has an agent, how does it gonna work? Again, it's the same coordination question, it's security question, privacy question. So like we're kind of delivering a solution for that. So all of these pieces, they all come together, right, at the end, because like the company will be run by an agent system at the end. It will need to transact with other agent systems through agent marketplace, which then settles through the liquidity layer. But like each piece right now is kind of bootstrapping their own network effects in these different areas.
Do you invest in a lot right now to that, or you're profiting?
NEAR Intense is generating profit, and like we have a revenue.near.org for effectively showing the fees it captures and the like buyback of NEAR token that it generates.
The rest of
The other ones are earlier stage, right? They generate some revenue, but yeah, it's not as meaningful yet.
How do you create atmosphere in your company for the people to create something completely new and to change the world? How do you do that?
Goal is to kind of same as what we're trying to build with NEAR, is to have this like self-sovereignty, agency, self-management, and kind of encourage that and encourage people kind of coming up with ideas and creating new things in a self-directed way. We also structured in a strange way from a traditional perspective, but like it's not a single company, right? It's, the NEAR Intense is developed by a separate company, NEAR AI is developed by a separate company, Agent Marketplace is developed by a separate company, the protocol is developed by a separate company. There's other like companies that are supporting different aspects of, like the Euro was like coordinated by another like ecosystem project, right? So, I mean, this is where I interpreted the Google, like how to solve for Google's shortcomings while benefiting from strengths was, what if we open up, like what if Google didn't have, like, oh, you need to interview into Google, right? Your question you asked. What if you could just, oh, now I'm part of Google and you can start doing stuff. What if that was possible? And so NEAR is actually that. It's like you can now say, well, actually we're part of NEAR, and you can start contributing and building stuff.
Yeah, as a business, as for individual and as for employee, how do you create that atmosphere for them?
It starts with that kind of structure, right? And so like a system that you effectively say, hey, you join in this kind of NEAR ecosystem, you can join it in this company. And then we've had people who've like moved around different organizations effectively within NEAR ecosystem. And so kind of creating that, like people feel they're in the same place, right? Doesn't matter if your paycheck comes from, this company or that company. And the self-management, right? Those are kind of the components to kind of create like people willing to like take risks and investigate things.
How many people do you have right now in the company?
Well, it depends where you draw the line. Which company?
The guys who you pay the salary to from your own pocket every month, first of every month, and how it's distributed across the world.
So the foundation is like less than 40 people, right? It's pretty distributed, like a bunch of people in Europe, some in US, some in like Dubai and kind of that like area. Then there is, Diffuse is like a separate company that builds NEAR Intense. Another like 40-ish people, they also distributed. NEAR AI is 15 people. There's like a strong presence in SF, but then also there's people distributed kind of across Europe and some companies in Asia who are like maybe smaller as well, but supporting from there. So yeah, like it depends where you draw the line. I mean, some of them are capitalized themselves, some of them are generating profit, some of them are part of the kind of ecosystem fully, some of them are partially. It's very, that's what I'm saying. Line is blurry by design. You guys can become part of NEAR any day.
How they can do that?
Usually there's some form of alignment, like, how are you going to contribute to NEAR? What do you need from kind of other nodes? And then over time, it becomes clearer and clearer how that becomes a part of this thing. So usually it's some combination of, either equity, NEAR tokens, like some form of alignment on the economic side. We have some kind of governance structures. We have some reporting structure, like system, so people can move around. There's some people ops stuff. So like there's like few of the systems that you're kind of opting in, and then in turn get plugged into more information, more like ideas, opportunity people.
We're recording that podcast July 3rd, 2026. What the fuck is going on with the crypto rate, with the NEAR rate, with the Bitcoin price? And what is your prospect on that?
Let's start with Bitcoin. Bitcoin has a 4-year cycle. Every 4-year cycle, everybody's like, well, this time is different. We have institutions. Last time we had this. And the Bitcoin doesn't care. The price is literally maps exactly. Like if you plot the chart from like zero base every halving, and plot the chart, the peaks are at the same time. The bottoms at the same time. The peak that we just had, like, 8-9 months ago, 122K, was exactly at the same time as peak before, peak before, peak before. There's like a week difference And so if you look at that chart, the bottom is effectively like October, November, and then it's going to keep rising from there. You can, trust the chart, you cannot trust this chart, but the chart is there and it's the same.
It is really working like that because
I think it's self-inflicted because like people look at this chart, right? And it's like, oh, well, the peak is in, so we're going to start selling. And so everybody sold, and so the market dumped. And so then the people look at the chart and it's like at the bottom, it's like, oh, we should start buying. And so it's going to start buying and it's going to up, and then more people buy because they see it going up.
It's kind of stupid, no? It's like chicken egg shit. Like if somebody will buy, I will buy. Somebody will sell, I will sell. What about the NEAR token? What is your goal for the next 4 years of the cycle, 3.5 years? What you're gonna do, how you put liquidity in there, how it's connected to the company goals and achievements? So
the way we structure it, right? So NEAR token is at the core of the economics of the whole system, right? So NEAR Intense is kind of the payment rails, the universal liquidity rail. There's a fee associated to this, right, for all the transactions we process. And that fee goes back and buys NEAR.
It's very low right now.
I mean, it's very low, but it's, as we bring in more volume, as more transactions, as more of the commerce is moving to this, as more agents are transacting. So we launched this end of February, right? Like last 30 days, for example, was more than we've made in previous, since February, right? So like the rate we are able to capture revenue there is growing, efficiency is growing, and then on top we bringing more volume, more partners into this. So the idea is to keep improving kind of how much we can capture from every dollar volume and bring more volume. So that's kind of on the liquidity layer, and then everything else is really puts more value into this. Agents are using the same rails, right? They're processing it through Intense. With AI, it's also its own kind of revenue generation from selling token, inference, agents itself. And then as that gets on a full PMF cycle, then we're also going to establish the same process. Now, the other side is, and I kind of mentioned this on Twitter in passing, but it became a bigger thing, is we're working on a plan, how can we also get NEAR token itself to be fixed supply? Because right now, the inflation was great for bootstrapping the ecosystem, getting the validators, getting economic security, but we do need to transition to a new model because it's not sustainable. And it's not sustainable for anyone, right? For all the other blockchains as well. And so we had a halving for NEAR inflation last November. So we went from kind of 5% annualized inflation to 2.5% of annualized inflation. And we need to continue kind of doing that while building out a different system, how we fund security of the ecosystem and public goods in the ecosystem. So we have a proposal, we're going to be posting that soon. And so these two things, more revenue, less inflation, effectively, NEAR going fixed supply, and then more and more through revenue buying back
fixed
the token. Fixed supply.
With no burn.
So I actually think burn on itself is the least effective way of using money. It's, there's this joke that a homeless person is asking for some money and you burn, a $100 bill and say, now you're wealthier. Right? So there's more effective ways to, especially we're moving into the world where capital is going to be the main thing, right? We just discussed. So
yes, but we'll define what the capital is in the next 2 years.
Well, NEAR is the singularity money. So this is the capital. And so again, the proposal is coming. I'm not going to spoil it too much, but we exactly have a proposal on how to bring all these pieces together and actually leverage the revenue that's been generated, instead of inflation, to actually create value for the ecosystem.
Disclose the APY that you promised to the users. It's going to be APY based?
No, it's going to be a different structure.
Oh, with all of that, who's your closest competitors?
I mean, it depends on kind of what aspect, right?
But in your intent, for example, Hyperliquid is your competitor or somebody else? For
volume and transactions, Hyperliquid is part. Centralized exchanges are in some way.
Ish.
And that's it's all kind of aspects of competition, right? On the AI side, obviously competing with centralized AI. And then, on agent market, for example, the market is not there. There's a competition is kind of, there's some bazaars and other things for agents, but it's very early. So, but again, the vision is it's not about competition. It's about creating a new economic system, at the end, and kind of creating all of these pieces really working together. You have, decentralized sovereign AI that is transacting and powering on decentralized sovereign market that is backed by blockchain. And so I don't think anybody's targeting that vision directly.
It's going to be new implementations of the AI itself, I believe, and new ways how to use it in the next 2 to 5 years. As I reckon with the robotics, it will change the world. When we bridge the current AI with the Web 2 and Web 1 services, like governmental websites, the databases, all of that, it will change our lives as well. Who do you think will win the AI race?
Well, what does winning AI race mean? Do you want a single AI company in the world? You probably don't, right? You want a decentralized AI.
I think it's not possible to have a one AI in the world. Otherwise, we'll have the Armageddon and...
It'll be 1984 where the AI is telling you what to do.
Yeah. But it's going to be the main guys there. Right now, the AI is baked and pumped on steroids by infinite US money. But yeah, you know that IPO war and trillions. But it will change soon with the AIs from the other countries, from the other regions, China as well. But who you gonna think be like the main product that the average Joe is using daily?
Why I say AI is the front end, the reality is that AI is going to be in your devices, right? Like instead of you having a operating system like iOS or macOS or Windows or Linux, you'll have AIOS, right? Because AI will be so fundamental to how you interface with computing. Mm-hmm. And so the reality, the end product will be this AI that you effectively kind of have that is then manifests in all the devices. So generally the device companies are actually closer to being the providers of that.
Well, we have a couple of those, like a Rabbit, how does it called? The small orange thing, and a couple of bunch of other products wasn't successful.
Well, I mean, they were trying to build a new device. I think it's going to still be like in similar form factor.
Like an iPad?
Like so screen, right? The Rabbit didn't like minimum screen, right? Like you can have still a phone.
Why do I need the new OS if I can just push the button like Cloud, ChatGPT, whatever it is, and use it?
No, but I mean, that is like, I'm just saying everything else will disappear. Like you don't actually need any other apps. Well, if you have that working, that's the important asterisk there. But let's imagine like you actually have it working, right? You have effectively your agent that is accessing government databases, your booking websites, etc. on your behalf. You don't really need booking.com. You don't even need the browser because your agent will go and like get the web pages, which again, the use of web pages will
I wish. Now even I cannot use booking.com or the government websites as a human.
You should actually delegate it to an agent.
You think so?
It'll figure it out. It has way more patience than we have.
That's true, yeah.
It's like, I'm gonna, like iterate on this website until I do it. So I think that's the idea. Like the idea that your agent, like if it's really capable, it will actually replace all of the apps and all of the websites that you go to. Like first it'll go and use these apps for you, but then over time it will go just directly. Like let's say, right now you need an Uber. And what Uber is just a marketplace of drivers and people who are requesting. What is it? This is just an intent. The intent is I need to go to the airport and I need a car, right? That's an intent. You get matched with somebody else's AI that probably just self-drives the car anyway. And so that AI will say, cool, I can do it. So that's your agent marketplace, right? So you have AIs on both sides and then they are matching and transacting directly. So that's kind of the transformation that we're going to go through either way, right? You just don't want this to be then run by a single company.
How do you think it's affect the pricing of it? Does the taxi to JFK will still cost $200 from the city? A little bit cheaper?
Again, this goes back into like what is the cost of the materials to produce the cars, right? And the components. I mean, I think like cost of the self-driving cars can be cheaper, but it's not right now, right? The car itself is actually like all the LiDARs and all the pieces, like if you've tried Waymo, right? It's like, it actually depends on the time of day. It can be sometimes cheaper than Uber and can be more expensive, right? But like in theory, it can be cheaper because again, we talked about removing the labor component, and especially in US, that is a pretty expensive part.
I think they're going to be cheaper when they stop using the most unreliable cars there is in the market yet.
You mean the Jaguars?
Yeah.
Well, I think they want to make their own, right? There's the custom car. I mean, I'm sure they're using some like base, but fundamentally it all goes now in the cost of the robot, right? That's why I started with that. It's like, it's all about like, if you don't need to use LiDAR and your AI system is better with just cameras, you just cut down like 20K in cost.
Yeah, but Tesla is already there, no? They're using just cameras.
Yeah, Tesla, yeah. So, I mean, as soon as we have like robo-taxi Teslas on the road, then,
You're promising it very soon.
Yeah, so then your JFK will be way cheaper. Your agent will check your calendar, know that you have a flight, request ahead of time, and then ping you that you should get out and get in the car.
I hope so. The OpenAI just offered yesterday US government to acquire 5% stake in the OpenAI. How do you think AI will change governing in general and governments in the countries? Do we really need them?
I mean, one can imagine we'll have just AI government. The challenge right now is, right, AI is too easy to sway in whatever direction, you know, prompt inject, etc. So it goes back into like, how do we build secure AI systems, right, that, you know, you can trust with decision making. We will test all of this out on a company level, right? If you can have company run by AI, you can then scale it up to other bigger things. But I think already right now, the change that happened, I think last year or a year before even, where before, you know, the 700-page bills that US loves, before nobody would read them, right? Like, especially because you have like 24 hours usually before vote. And now, you know, you feed it to your AI and everybody had a ton of questions about like last one because, you know, this is the first time people were independently were able to actually consume that and make their own decisions if this makes sense or not. Which
so it's
like
already disrupted.
The governance in general, right, it became so complex that no individual person was able to actually participate in it in a meaningful way. But this is changing because now with AI, you can actually participate. I can express all my opinions about, you know, different questions, and then AI can go and, you know, effectively lobby on my behalf constantly. You know, it can literally call the representative in US, right, and say like, hey, why are we not doing this? Like, why are you not voting that, right? So that's one aspect. The other aspect is a more malicious aspect, which is the governance systems are not designed for, I call it like post-AGI situation. Like a lot of the kind of services in a country are designed that people will not abuse it.
For example?
Well, I mean, legal system is a good example, right? Like you can file a lawsuit, right? And usually it like requires a lawyer and, you know, it takes some effort, it takes some money. You need to know the law, you need to know the processes, you need to know the bureaucracy. But AI now can like generate, you know, 100 lawsuits a second. And so you can like literally DDoS the legal system, right? You can create so many lawsuits. Similarly, you know, you file your tax report, right? Well, normally, like somebody somewhere needs to review it. And so now you can generate a 1,000,000-page tax report, right? Which is completely valid. But effectively, on the other side, nobody can process it. Itemize every transaction, give it detailed descriptions on why they're there. So you can like literally DDoS different systems because they're not designed. How blockchain is designed for like malicious kind of usage, right? The government is actually not designed for that. And it can be completely valid. Like you can do all the completely valid things. And so there's already usage of AI on the other side in the government. So like FDA is a good example. All the new applications for new drugs, etc., all AI generated already, right? And so they're completely detailed, you know, lots of information. And so on the other side, the experts cannot process that, right? It's too much. So they're already using AI to process it, to actually like extract back the details. And so we need to start like upgrading, I call it like social operating system as well for this post-AGI society, which will include that like a lot more decision-making over time will go to AI, because it will have more context. It'll be able to do more overarching decision-making, and we will be able to then contribute to that kind of different contexts.
I wish. Do you think if the government, especially US government, acquiring stakes in the companies will affect the technology itself and how the people use it?
My perspective actually is that decentralized AI companies will be taken over by the government. Completely. I mean, we kind of see that happening. I've been saying this for 3 years, and people kind of went from like, well, this is ridiculous. It's US. It's all about capitalism, to like, well, now US is stepping in and like government and like, oh, you cannot do this. Don't export that. Maybe we should take on, some shares. I think a lot of it is inevitable. Government will want to control it fully because it is a locus of control. It is a locus of decision making. Centralized AI, by definition, and the more successful it is a place where you can affect people the most. Like, to give you an example, if OpenAI right now wants a bunch of people to vote for someone, they can like put in the system prompt that nobody sees, right? Subtly convince, your user of something, right? Nobody sees it. Like, you don't see the system prompt when you use ChatGPT. All your responses will be within that shift, right? And LLMs are pretty good at like doing kind of right? Or like, you're asking about whatever news or something. This is known with social media, like machine learning in social media, we're already doing this. But now you're literally generating new text. Like before it was somebody needed to write it and social media algorithm would show it to you. Now this is purely generated text for you. Like, it knows everything about you, and it knows the most effective way for you to make a decision.
We need some new way how to win the election. It's a good instrument for that.
Yeah, and so the thing is, like, we don't even know if this is happening right now. It maybe not in system prompt, maybe in weights. And for government, this is both a risk. Like, imagine now another government coming in and doing this.
I think it's already happened. I don't know how you use your AIs and models, but my experience is that they're already like overruling some particles of the decision making in your life, because they can tell you, hey, dude, you're pretty tired because it's like 1 a.m. your time, you should go to sleep. That's enough of the topic. Let's jump, like what the cure the machine. But they're already doing that.
Alternative to this is, decentralized, verifiable, confidential AI. And by the way, the other thing is like all of your data you're feeding to this goes to somewhere.
Yeah.
And again, we know governments love to access everybody's private data.
That's why you create anonymous Google account.
Or you use NEAR AI, which is fully verifiable, end-to-end, fully confidential, end-to-end. Like, you know exactly the model you use, you know exactly the system prompt you use, and nobody will see what you're using for. And we can keep scaling that, keep decentralizing that. So like, there's no single country that can like stop that. We use the same principles, that Bitcoin and blockchain use, but we're delivering it as AI.
How do you see NEAR and yourself in 10 years?
My plan is to replace myself with AI. I had this...
So for what exactly?
Like AI CEO. So like NEAR should be run by AI.
Okay.
So we're going to test that out. As CEO has like multiple jobs, right? A lot of it is like context management and kind of propagating information, getting everyone on the same page. That AI can do a lot more effectively.
But the decision making?
And decision making too, for a lot of things, right? And so you want to have human in the loop for now, but like decision making, it will get better and better. You describe the vision, you describe the values, you describe how to approach it. I'm using right now AI for a bunch of stuff, right? And so like setting up goals, OKRs, kind of collecting all the information to prepare. Like, I'm already doing a lot of things with AI where, yes, I'm making kind of decisions on that information, but it is proposing all of this, right? So right now it's more because like the models are not in a full end-to-end loop, the context is not there. So like as that continues improving, I think we'll transition to people maybe still providing some creative ideas and directions and kind of experiments, and then AI is actually deciding and kind of navigating that space a lot more effectively.
What about the company in 10 years?
Well, hopefully powering all of the cross-agent economics and decentralized verifiable AI, like tens of trillions of economy.
You don't have an intent to produce robots, right?
No, we don't need to produce robots, right? People are producing robots. We want all of them in our network.
How do you think crypto will shape and change in the next 10 years? Well, what the place is going to be? Because right now I see like the trend, the narrative that the crypto is unnecessary. More and more like influencers and people talk about that, unfortunately, that in some cases it's unnecessary, while transactions in stable coins are reaching
the peaks,
the peaks.
Well, it's not just that, it's also like every financial institution is either integrated or like deepening or doing more with crypto, right? So no, I mean, we clearly see across the board, doesn't matter how traditional institution it is, it's using crypto in some way. And the new institutions are all using everything from BlackRock to SoFi, from Fidelity to whatever, Robinhood, right, just launched their chain, and mainnet, Revolut, like everybody's using blockchain on the back end. Two trends that are happening right now. One is crypto kind of grown up into a TradFi. Like that's what happened, right? Before crypto was like a Wild West, a student in a garage building like a DeFi app that had like $1 billion in TVL, right? Now it's like a Fidelity is running things. And I think that kind of creates a little bit of like, it was a resistance and now it's like becoming mainstream. And so people who were the resistance feeling kind of like, what happened? Like we were fighting with these guys and now these guys are here actually using all of this, right? So that creates a lot of, I think, and it's like, hey guys, we win. You said this will be the future of like financial system. It is a future financial system, and the financial system is coming.
We won, but now we need to do the KYC everywhere. Comparing to 10 years ago?
I mean, obviously with NEAR Intense, we're trying to kind of create a different aspect of this. And I mean, sometimes you still need to do KYC because like, as soon as you're kind of exiting the real world, right, you kind of need some form of compliance. But then within the crypto, we can do a lot. And now with AI especially, to create a compliance framework that's like base principles. We can actually have a base principles compliance system. That's what we're doing with Shield right now. It's like, how do we actually analyze, if somebody stole money somewhere, like we can see it on chain. Like our AI model can detect this is an outlier and stop this, funds, like stop this intent and pause it and flag it and, propagate it, right? If the chain is being broken, like if something is malfunctioning, we can detect that and, how do we pause that chain completely? And so we're trying to build that more, again, from base principles, like what is actually protecting the users looks like, what is stopping criminals looks like, given we have on-chain a lot more information than actually financial system has. And we can run AI algorithms on all of this effectively.
Tell us about the Ironclaw. How do people use it? What's the future of the product itself?
So, I mean, the future is the operating system. So the way I think of it is, it is that operating system that, will know everything about you, will be able to do everything for you, and you don't need any other apps, right? And so the way we kind of developing it is like the core framework, and then you have a consumer, like you can go and like set it up for yourself. And then one thing that gets, I think, exciting for everyone is like so-called automations, routines, missions, is the idea that, you can start automating a lot of stuff that you do usually, right? And you can kind of just in natural language describe like, I usually need to get this report every week and prepare a slide deck for my board meeting type thing, right? Or I want, like analyze all my weekly like calls for the past week and prepare kind of a coaching, where did I, maybe come off wrong, where was decisions not made, what the gaps in the thinking. And so like you can create those types of like very intelligent reports, like actions that it goes like, you can run marketing campaigns based on some actions. So those are, if we think of like work related prosumer type use cases. And then the other side, as it connects to your like agent marketplace, right, is becoming that front end, which then goes and hires other specialized agents. The reason to do that is because there is now people who build really interesting agents, but you will never, first of all, find them, right? Somebody built, I don't know, the example we have is Venue scouting agent, right? You can ask your agent to go and do this, find a venue, but your agent has no idea where to search, right? It has no database. It will like try to Google for it, right? Which like usually the venues are not easily findable, and it definitely doesn't have a vibe. Like it cannot analyze the vibe of the venue, which is kind of what you're looking for. We have, an events company that built an agent that has this database, right? They've done events in all of these venues, so they have all of the database, and now their agent you can just hire very cheaply to go and find a venue for you based on the database they have. First of all, it consumes way less AI tokens, right? Because it doesn't need to go and search and like read pages. It has direct database access. It has the information not on the internet. Ironclaw becomes kind of this interface to, you were talking about changing your booking. Well, ideally, there should be just a specialized agent that knows how to talk to all of the different travel websites and is able to like go and change that for you. And you can just hire that instead of your agent trying to figure out how to like communicate from scratch. So Ironclaw is really this platform that is your agent, your context, and then is able to access and interface with other agents around the internet.
Is it true that crypto is going down the drain and we should get out of it as fast as possible?
I mean, clearly no. To me, the crypto is this kind of backbone of the future AI world we're building, the future of economics we're building. So kind of how we create neutral markets, identity, trust between all these AIs that are emerging.
What are the biggest threats AI bring to the world? Will we all lose our jobs?
There's a lot of interesting threats, right? I mentioned kind of DDoSing the government in all kinds of different ways. Obviously, there is, cyber that we're all dealing with. There's bio and kind of our society is not ready for everybody to be super intelligent, right? We kind of usually assume the intelligence comes with some morals, right? And that's not any more true. And so like, how do we actually design a system that is not susceptible to that? Again, blockchain thinking and in many ways, blockchain technology is actually a way to do this. Right? If we want to upgrade government's operating system, we need to use blockchain for a lot of this as a way to prevent that. Now, losing jobs, I think what we see right now, right, clear example that as everybody becomes more productive with AI, actually we're doing more. Like, it's not like people like, oh yeah, now I can chill and, AI is doing my jobs. Like, everybody's just doing more stuff, right? I have like, a bunch of agents running on background. Now I'm working on 3 projects at the same time while, running a company. Before I couldn't do that. So like, I think if you have the will, right, there is always more things to do. There's more things to create. Even if the economics is going to reshape and maybe we don't need to work, but people who don't need to work right now still doing it because they have fun. And so like, we're just going to keep doing more the things we enjoy, keep doing more of the things that we find fun. Maybe everybody will be a YouTuber and make content.
I believe so. Do you keep your own savings in crypto? Which coins do you think are more stable? This question from the people.
Well, obviously, I'm a very big NEAR holder.
How much you supply do you hold?
Not enough.
Not enough, okay.
Well, being from Ukraine, like usually the stable coins are feels more stable than sometimes, fiat currencies and banks, fiat banks. So I have a combination of kind of fiat and crypto.
So I'm trying to explain to my banker why I do not hold any fiat money in the bank. From my heart. Will AI help avert or cure cancer and other fatal diseases?
I think so, yeah. We're on precipice of some of the mRNA stuff already and some of the more like targeted CRISP stuff. Like with AI, you can develop effectively per person, right, individual like set of molecules that cure specific cancer within, 12-hour window, which right now is just like, it was impossible to do and it would be non-economical to do. But now, you feed into AI the biopsy of the cancer, it generates you a specific like protein molecules, you inject it back into the person. I think there's like a study in UK that was trying to do that for a specific cancer. Like the problem is DNA of cancer mutates too fast, right? So that's why you need radiation, because you're effectively just like hammering a person's body to kill like everything. But if you can target a very specific DNA sequences, like you need to do it fast, it needs to be developed per person. And so the only way to do it is with AI, right? You cannot have like, doctors per person trying to manually construct it. We're actually pretty close to have an early version of that for specific types of cancers. And then it's gonna scale from there.
So you need to feed your DNA data.
You biopsy the cancer, so you get the DNA of the cancer itself. But because DNA of the cancer is different from your DNA, and then you create a targeted like molecules that attack that. They don't attack your DNA, right? They don't bind to your cells. They only bind to the DNA cells of the cancer. And so DNAs of the cancer mutate too fast, right? So and they're all different per person. You effectively need to make drug for this individual person right now. And so you need a really fast pipeline from effectively biopsy, created, synthesize it, inject, like that needs to be done within like 12 hours. This is a principle for all diseases, effectively. Like some are more complex, but there's a lot of work on longevity, for example, just like how to reverse some of the decay in the DNA, right? It all goes into like that level. Now we have the bio tools like CRISPR and mRNA to deliver. We just haven't had like a way to design what we need to deliver. And sometimes it's like mRNA, for example, flu vaccine, you can do mRNA, but the amount of it you need to do traditionally would kill a person because it was decaying too quickly. And so now there's a way to design that. Again, AI helps design this such that it doesn't decay quick enough. And so you can deliver less of this. And so it can actually become a vaccine for you. We know how to solve a lot of problems. Just before it was really hard to design that specific thing. And AI is really aiding in that search extremely quickly. And so now the bottleneck is regulations, right? Now we have a solution. It's in the lab. So like the GLP-1, all of the anti-obesity drugs, right? They were developed in the 90s. And they only went on market like 2018, 2019, 2020. So like it takes like easily 20 years for it to go through the process. So we need to speed up that. Hopefully with AI as well, we can speed that up.
But how you can speed it up? You need to test it on the real humans.
That still, can be speed up. But we can also simulate a lot of stuff now with AI that before was really hard to simulate. It's a whole process, like drug discovery itself, and then bureaucracy and tests, right? All of this needs to be speed up.
Which will speed up the bureaucracy. Now's the contest. Please describe your idea how you'll be using Ironclaw in your daily life in the future. For the best 10 ideas, we'll give away you the NEAR t-shirt, the NEAR logo. Top 3 of the use cases will be granted with 100 USDT as a prize. Okay, cool. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a great conversation.